That's a big motherfucker of a question. How will you know when you are fulfilled? I am on the path to get more rich. Empowered communication is a form of self-care. Welcome everyone to Mindset Mastery Class with your professor, me, Laura Catella. Today, I'm going to share a very special presentation that I've only ever given one time to a very private group of folks who were at my last Diamond Day event, which I've modified a bit for our services today and for this group that is here today. So far, we have discussed things like how to stop procrastinating so darn much, how to feel worthy of going after what you want in life, how to feel confident even when you embark on something new. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the principle of legacy, how to get a bit clear on what your legacy might be. And we'll discuss how to overcome obstacles, challenges, pains, meltdowns quickly instead of spending months under what would be for me the weighted blanket and running away. I have to start by reminding you of what is obvious to me, but is sometimes not obvious to all of you guys. You are cut from a different cloth. You would not be here if you weren't. You are participating in a mindset class on a Tuesday. Most will not do that. Most will look around and say, just give me the answer. Just tell me what to do. And then they keep doing that and they wonder why they're not progressing, why they're not getting what they want, why they don't even know what they want. You guys operate a little bit differently, and that is okay. We're all meant to be a little bit different, aren't we? And here's why the work that we do in Mindset Mastery class is worth everything it takes. It's worth when I'm annoying and you ask me a question and I respond with, it depends. Why you may ask me a question and I will respond with a question for you. Why is it worth all of that? One of the reasons is that it advances us towards and gets us more and more clear on our legacy and what we want our legacy to be. And legacy may sound heavy, right? It may sound challenging, like we have to do a bunch of work in order to achieve that. But what if that wasn't true? What if getting clear on your legacy and leaving a legacy meant being who you are, the fully expressed and actualized version of you? What if that alone was the mechanism through which you left the greatest, most meaningful to you impact on the world? That's what I propose. And that's what we're going to get some tactical action steps on today. And here's an example of how all of this started to bloom and blossom for me. In June of 2022, I threw an event, my second event, called Diamond Day Mastermind. I wore the sparkly bodysuit, which some people hated on social media, which is great. Being polarizing is awesome. It was not a stretch for me to wear that bodysuit. It was the only thing I could wear. It was the only thing that made sense to me to wear. But Diamond Day is not just about me wearing an ice skater's outfit or looking like a Christmas ornament. It's about bringing people together, amazing people, in a safe container where we're vulnerable, where we ask deep questions, where we acknowledge our dark sides, our creepy corners. Yes, Matt Murphy. I see the beautiful Matt Murphy in this photo. So many amazing people here. And we also do cool shit, you know? At this event, we went ATVing in the Arizona desert together as the physical integration of a nudge of our comfort zone and the collective experience of doing this together. And by all measures, It was one of the best events for entrepreneurs in the marketing space that has ever been held. And I was on top of the world. Have you ever felt like, ooh, I did something. I did something big. I feel pretty good about myself. But by June 6th, I believe it was, just 2 days after that amazing experience, here I was. And I hope this video plays. Let's see.
It's the day after biohacking day, Diamond Day 2, implementation day. Starts in like an hour and a half. Like, you are emotionally cracked, wide the fuck open. This is the perfect language to describe what the fuck is going on. So I'm documenting this moment.
Don't worry, guys. Did you know even Oprah was told in the beginning of her career that she was too emotional? So why on earth am I having a meltdown right after pulling off something that I thought was so amazing? And maybe your meltdowns look a little bit different from mine. Maybe you don't sob. Maybe you just become kind of a dick. And your family's like, why are you so short and testy and temperamental? Or maybe you burn a bridge, right? Or a relationship. Maybe you break a commitment. Whatever it is, whatever form your meltdowns take, my goal in this talk is to help you move through them authentically, powerfully, and quickly. So what was going on with me? During my event, I extended an invitation for attendees to come back for my next event. And even though many told me, Laura, this is one of the best experiences I have ever had, only 2 people took me up on the invitation to come to the next one. And so have you ever felt like you gave something all you had? You tried your best. You laid yourself out there, but you did not get the outcome that you wanted. And it wasn't enough. This is how I felt. Shit. I gave it all I had. A lot of money invested, a lot of time, a lot of energy, and it wasn't enough. You're not enough. It's easy for other people. It's not easy for me. You ever think something like that? Why is it so easy for them to get what they want and it's not easy for me? Laura, you're not enough. You must not have been enough. If you were enough, more people would say yes. You ever think anything like that? This is what was going on in my brain. How do you come out on the other side of this? Not just eventually, because we could argue that time heals all wounds and all. So the hope is you do come out eventually. But how do you come out faster and stronger than if you just went with the default motion of the emotions? 2 powerful tools. It's not another fucking tactic. Are you going to Google, how do I come out of this meltdown? Are you going to Google how to feel like you're actually enough, even when everything in you is telling you that you're not? No. Luckily, we have these most powerful tools of all, your mind and your heart, to get you through this. And we have exercises that we teach in Mindset Mastery class, one of them being what I call the conveyor belt. We put the emotion, you're not enough. It's easy for other people. It's not easy for you. We let that go by us as if it is on a conveyor belt that shifts the perspective. You are literally above it. You are viewing it. And you do not judge that emotion. You do not try to rationalize your way out of it. Well, I know I shouldn't think I'm not enough. I know I work hard. I know I gave it all I had. What does that do? You're just wrestling with the emotion. You're creating more tension. You're stuck when you try to fight against what you're genuinely feeling. So we suspend judgment of an emotion like that, and we accept the complexity behind it, especially when you have emotions that appear to be the polar opposite of one another. Oh, I'm not enough, but I know in these other ways I'm enough. Stop trying to resolve that. Accept the complexity as an emotional system. A system. Different, unique components, not something you have to streamline, something that you have to accept all of the complexity of. That one shift in emotion management has changed my life forever. As another example, it's not in my prepared material, but it's hitting my spirit, so I'll go off book. My mom. I have a complicated relationship with my mom, and for so long, ever since I was a teenager, maybe even a preteen, I would say, yeah, my mom's a crazy bitch. My mom is a crazy bitch. But then I realized, in fact, it was a little bit worse. I would say to myself, my mom's a crazy bitch and I hate her. But I realized if I am born of her and I have her genetic code in me, and I'm saying she's a crazy bitch and I hate her. She slapped me around. I hate her. She locked me in a room. I hate her. Crazy stuff. What am I saying? At some level, I am saying I'm a crazy bitch and I hate myself because I am born of her. And it's not just the pain of that. It's the shame of being born of it. It is my feeling of dirty DNA. But at the same time, I try to find empathy and compassion for my mom. And sometimes I still think she's a bitch. So if I wasted so much time and energy trying to resolve that, does it seem useful? Does that seem like a useful exertion of energy? Or can I accept the complexity of that as its full emotional system? So much more liberating. Yep, I'm working on it. We're still in relationship. I empathize for her, and sometimes I still think she's a bitch, and that's okay. Accept the complexity of the emotional system. Could change your life. And when we have a feeling going by us on the conveyor belt, again, we don't try to shove it down. We don't try to kick it out. We examine it for its utility. We run it through the GPS. What does this feeling, what does this sentiment give to me? How is it trying to protect me? And how does it serve me, right? Because the feeling of, you're not enough. You're not enough. How might that protect you? Well, it'll show you, don't put yourself out there again, because you might get hurt again. So it's trying to protect you, even if it's maladaptive, even if it doesn't, in that form, advance you towards what you want. But now we can look at that sentiment on the conveyor belt. We're using our consciousness, right? And say, oh, thank you for trying to protect me. So we examine the utility of what may seem like motherfuckers of feelings. right? There is always some utility behind them. So we can examine that and we can accept that and we can thank even the negative self-talk for what it's trying to do for us. And then we reckon with the limitation that it imposes on us. What does it cost us? Because if we're convinced and we operate every day of our lives in the belief that we're not enough, that is going to cost us a lot, isn't it? So we accept the utility and then we reckon with the limitations of it. And we have a lot of tools at our disposal to do this step because our reactions, the you're not enough, they come from that hardware, right? That lizard brain, that amygdala brain, the fear centers, millennia of programming, where it comes from. You're not enough. You're not enough. That is your hardware talking. But it's quite miraculous because we have an infinite capacity for new software through language and math. It's wild, right? Creatures that first evolved to hunt and farm in sub-Saharan Africa. We have the gifts of our frontal lobe of language and math for infinite software. So one of the software tricks that I use, we shift perspective. I got a list. It grows, but it's about 30, 35 different perspective shifts I use on myself and on other people. And one of them is a bit advanced that I tried on myself. Agreement. You're not enough. You're not enough. So I fuck around with the feeling and I decide to agree with it. Yeah, you're not enough. Of course you're not. Now, I said this one's pretty advanced. If a coaching client came to me and said, Laura, I feel like I'm not enough, I probably wouldn't agree with it. I probably wouldn't say, of course you're not enough. Though maybe I would. But this is me, right? So I try the craziest shit on myself. So I try it. Of course you're not. And my big, beautiful brain, in its infinite capacity, it immediately responds with you're more than enough. Of course you're not enough. You're more than enough. Oof. Now we're getting somewhere. Now I'm starting to feel differently. And this all comes to this question of worth, right? And it's tricky for folks who in their work sell and monetize a piece of themselves, right? And you hear advice like charge what you're worth, or nobody can tell you what you're worth, or they don't need to understand your worth. All this shit around worth, murky waters, confusing, and our identities get wrapped up in it, right? So if you charge X, $100, $500, $1,000 for a phone call, of course, we know that doesn't mean you're worth $100, $500, $1,000 for a phone call. But that wasn't quite enough for me to make sense of this whole worth thing. So I looked up the origin, the etymology of the word worth. It comes from the Latin verb vertaieti, which means to turn. To turn. I interpreted this two ways. One, to transmute what's handed to you into what you want. That's one of the places worth comes from. Your ability to transmute what's handed to you into what you want. To turn pressure, as an example, into diamonds. Another interpretation, to turn, to physically and mentally turn your attention where it would be most useful. So where will you turn? This is how you begin to get through the meltdown in minutes, not months. When you are in it, where will you choose to turn? For me, it's always to the horizon. When in doubt, zoom out. Zoom out your perspective. Stop looking here. Very short perspective. Look out there. Think longer term. When you do this, it gives you poise. Poise in the moments of pain, anger, discord. You zoom out your perspective and you begin to feel more poise. Funnily enough, as mentioned, I only shared this one time before at my last Diamond Day event, and I talked about the importance of poise. We can all logically, and when we're calm emotionally, when our nervous system is calm, agree, yeah, poise is great and all. But when you're really in it and you're feeling some type of way, harder, right? To genuinely feel and execute poise. So I make this whole stink about how important poise is. The very next day, I am once again making a pitch on stage for people to join me at the next event. What happens? My slides break. The whole projection system breaks. And I had some funny GIFs lined up, ready to go. Of course. Of course. The universe says, oh yeah, Laura? You think you have poise? Let's see. Let's see. And my slides were down for about 25 minutes. And it got to the point, I felt it, right? The adrenaline is flowing through me and the thought ran across my head, I am going to walk off this goddamn stage. That's it. I'm going to walk off. And then I had to take the deep breath. And I said, this is the opportunity for me to exhibit poise. And I openly said it on stage. I'm like, this is my pitch. And the slides are broken. There are a lot of marketers in the crowd, right? So they get it. A couple of the guys, a couple of my speakers came up and they were like, let's do Q&A. Like, let's make the most of this time. We're going to help you. Things don't go according to plan. What could you do? Exhibit poise. And as soon as whatever principles you adopt, right? The universe will make sure you mean it. The universe will put you in the beautifully agonizing position to put your money where your mouth is. Oh yeah, Laura, poise? We'll see. And that's an opportunity for you to practice what you preach, right? So when you have ran those emotions, that meltdown on the conveyor belt, when you have shifted your perspective, when you have zoomed out and looked to the horizon, now you can ask the question, what will you try next? What is your next winning move? In my community, we always say, winners win, right? That's a popular quote. Winners win. Why, though? Because winners think about winning. Thinking about winning is a choice. How many people do you know that think about losing? Thinking about losing is also a choice. But you can choose to think about winning. And if you do, you can then ask yourself, what is your next winning move? What will you try next? And that is what I did for the next 6 months following my pitch that was a flop. And lo and behold, okay, we're going to try this. We're going to offer it this way. We're going to position it this way. I'm going to invite this person. I'm going to get on this call. Door after door after door. And by the end of the 6 months, the room was perfectly filled with exactly who needed to be there. Think about it like this. You have a problem. You're in a room with 1,000 doors. You and your problem in the room of 1,000 doors. Some people want to stay in the room with their problem. Some people do not want to open a door. So you go and you try one door. You finagle the handle. Maybe it opens and you're in the next room with the next problem. Maybe it doesn't open. Maybe it half opens. Maybe you get 1% of the solution. And so in my example, I realized every door is something I will try to get more people into the room with me. Maybe one door, 0 people will join me. Next door, maybe 1 person. Next door, maybe 2. Keep trying doors. Think about winning and try the next door. This setback could have pissed me off and could have left me salty and cynical for months. It could have, but it didn't. Because I ran through this process that anybody, if they choose, can run through. And that is why we are fucking here. That is why people come attend Diamond Day. That is why people join me on Mindset Mastery Class, to achieve that with whatever their challenges are. And so there's so much intentionality roped into that, into every step of the process. You are taking control of the thoughts, the emotions, your identity, and your actions. You are controlling it. It is not controlling you, because ultimately, I am in the business of identity shifts. We spoke about this last week. When we can get a shift in how you perceive your identity, the actions follow suit. Your actions will always confirm and reinforce what your identity is. This is why you'll see so many people, right? They might be hugely successful in business to a certain point, and then everything crashes and burns. And then they'll build it up again to that same point, and it crashes and burns. Why? Because that somewhere in there, that is how they identify. Somebody who could build it up really fast, right? See huge windfalls, be successful, but I'm a builder. If that is how they identify, then they must burn it down to build again. Their actions will always align with it until they learn new shifts in their identity and take the actions that follow suit. So they can remain a builder, but maybe you sell it. Maybe you hand it off, right? Maybe you get it a little bit more automated. I don't really believe in most ways marketers sell passive income, but maybe you get it a bit more passive so that you shift I have to burn it down so I could build again. As an example, I think she just joined us too, which is perfect. The incredible Jeannie Mai. We had 1 month of working together, and Jeannie wanted to improve her feelings of stage fright, panic, and anxiety that she would have when it came to public speaking. And the company she worked for wanted her to do more public speaking in order to benefit the company. And she wanted to do it, but she would feel really, really nervous. We ran through these processes together, and in 1 month, she was on stage speaking to hundreds of people. Jeannie, are you here? I think she joined us.
I'm here.
Yes. Absolute fucking badass. Amazing. Because she tapped in to the part of her identity that was always there, right? The confident, badass person that she knew she was in other contexts. And we let her borrow that for the new context of speaking on these stages. I love you, Jeannie. It was so perfect that you're here. Because ultimately, here's the bleak part. We're going to die. And that makes us the lucky ones. Most people are never going to die because most people are never going to be born. And the rest of this quote is in my notes. So let me pull it up so I can read it. The potential people who could have been here in my place, who will in fact never see the light of day, outnumber the sand grains of Arabia. Certainly, those unborn ghosts include greater poets than Keats, greater scientists than Newton. We know this because the set of possible people allowed by our DNA so massively exceeds the set of actual people. In the teeth of these stupefying odds, it is you and I, in our ordinariness, that are here. We privileged few who won the lottery of birth against all odds. Who won the lottery of birth against all odds. That's a Richard Dawkins quote. And Dawkins is most known for like being a super atheist, right? I'm not really a super atheist, but you don't have to subscribe to everything that somebody believes to acknowledge their genius, right? In these stupefying odds, we have won the lottery of birth against all odds. What does that mean? What does that mean to you? You're lucky by birthright. Each and every one of you. You are no longer allowed to say, I'm unlucky or I don't feel lucky. Baby, you are born lucky. Knowing that you are born lucky, what will you do? What have you wanted to do that you have been putting on the back burner? Because it's time to stop waiting. And if you could engineer your way to that thing that you want to do, what might you do first? What is the first door you try to open? What is the first micro step you will take? You know, it rained. This big news alert. It rained the other day in Arizona. It rained. And I was in the car with my daughter, Eden. And we went through a big puddle and it splashed. She's 5. And she was so excited. She's like, oh my God, look at that big splash. She's like, Mom, if we go through another puddle, make sure you tell me so I could be looking out of the window so I could be ready to see the splash. She was so excited. And that's one of the magical things about a child, right? You see stuff through their eyes and life's little wonders become more resonant for you. Then I realized she's so excited by the splash because she hasn't really seen it before, right? She grew up in the desert most of her life. And it led me to ask myself, what haven't I seen? What haven't you seen hundreds of times yet that you want to see? That could evoke that magic for you. That you would say, let me know. Let me know if we're getting close to this in advance. If you could pursue that thing you want to experience, that thing you want to see, as your truest self and still be loved, would you do that? Because that's the reality we exist in. If you choose to believe it, if you choose to take on the identity of somebody who believes that, I can pursue whatever I want and still be loved. Of course you can. And it's easy to say that in these calm moments, but you must remember it when you're in the shit. And speaking of Eden, there she is, my little love. Oh, she's the best. Right after my event, and when I was in the shit, right, sobbing, snotty upper lip, here's what I saw the very next day. And here's Eden with her dad, and she's playing with her dolls. And if you look down on the carpet, she set up a bunch of her dolls as if they were an audience. And she had that lead Barbie in her hand right there, walking around as if she was on stage, saying stuff, modeling what she saw me do in the conference room just a few days before. Do I give a shit about 2 tickets sold when I see that? When I see, oh my God, it's going to feel so normal for her, for a woman to go ahead and do that, to speak on stage, to do what she wants. This is what I want my legacy to be. For it to feel so commonplace to her that she doesn't understand that it's special, that she just thinks that it's normal. And working to upgrade your family's life requires no justification. It's weird that sometimes we end up trying to justify this. But it's always to people who would never come to mindset class on a Tuesday. You know, there's the expression, the squeaky wheel gets greased. Well, one of my mentors, Joe Polish, he's like, how about the squeaky wheel gets replaced? And we stop trying to justify it to those people on the outside. Because when you're in the right places, you never have to justify it. Another piece of pop mindset advice, right? Don't tell anyone your goals. Work in silence. People wouldn't understand. If you're in the environment where people would not understand and where people would shit on your goals, it's time to prioritize shifting your environment. Because for anybody here, when we hang out together, you tell us your goals, what are we going to be like? Hell yeah. Go get it. Ooh, maybe you could approach it this way. Encouragement, support. You never have to justify what you're working for here. But you have to be the ambassador, right? For everybody to get the message, even us. And that's what legacy means. The etymology of legacy is to be an ambassador. Helps, in my opinion, make the word legacy less scary, right? Because now you can more simply ask yourself, what do you want to be an ambassador of? Who do you want to be an ambassador to? That gives you some of the building blocks in understanding your purpose and your legacy. And when you do that, and it's ongoing work, it's not a flip of the switch. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. It's ongoing work, horizontal work. You keep moving towards it. There's always more horizon, right? But the more and more you do this, the more unrivaled, meaning unable to be competed with, you become. The more command you have over yourself, the people you impact, your family, your field, your industry. Unrivaled. And it really trickles down to everything. Your messaging, right? The content you create, the copy you write, your sales processes, the way you lead. If you have this growing, ever evolving, but consciousness and awareness of what do I want to be an ambassador of? Who do I want to be an ambassador to? It applies to everything you go on to create and how you grow your business itself. You have a North Star. Because for a lot of us here, in one context or another, you are at or near the top. You have skills. You are proficient at something. And that gives you the edge. You know, you might feel like as I get more successful, the world gets bigger. But the truth of the matter is, the world tends to get smaller, right? A peak is a small area by definition. There's only so much room. So what gives you that edge up there? It's this. It's this. It's not a tactic. It's not a closing strategy. It's this. And it's this that moves you through the shit, the challenges in minutes, not months. And so everything we have discussed so far and will continue to discuss in class are ways to think like somebody who ultimately leaves the legacy they want. Because that person may procrastinate still. But what do we teach? Yeah, procrastinate. Just do it for less time. Right? You don't procrastinate on breathing or your heart beating. So you can stop identifying as a procrastinator and think more like someone. Tap into the identity of somebody who leaves the legacy they want. And those are my commitments to you. I hope you've seen it over the past 12 weeks and you'll continue to see it. Because I promise you that a legacy level of achievement is not just possible, but with your buy-in and commitment, your commitment to use the conveyor belt, your commitment to shifting your perspective, your commitment to making the choice to think about winning and taking the next winning action step, that level of achievement is not just possible, it is inevitable. And damn, does that not feel good? It's inevitable. And manifestation stuff, they teach that, right? And I think there's some utility to it. Believe it has already happened, right? You already have it. Now you're just on the bridge of incidents to get there. But what I find necessary to weave in are those action steps. The action steps that we take, opening other doors. And so we continue to reckon with the blockages and facades that come up along the way. For achievers, right, the facades are a real motherfucker because we've learned, right? A lot of us have learned, yeah, I know I got to take action even when I'm afraid. Yeah, I know I've got to test stuff out and face failure. Yeah, I know all of that. So we still have facades, though. And we talked about that a bit last week, right? We may not say we're afraid, but we'll say we're busy. If fear was causing you to stay busy so that you don't do the risky thing, just for fun, I'm not saying you're afraid of anything, but if it was, what might that fear be and what might you do about it? Those are the types of facades we reckon with together. They're extra tricky for us. Get that out of there. And so what we do in class together and what my mission and part of my legacy is to do is to continue to offer honest approaches to being a successful human. And in my view, successful means somebody who continuously works on understanding what they want and going after it on their terms. That's it. And my approach to that, and I won't go too crazy on this, are mind frames, right? An empowered way of viewing the world and yourself so that you take strong, effective, efficient actions that lead you closer to your goals. It's a little bit different from mindset, which is funny to say on Mindset Mastery class. The mind frame is the bicep curl, and the mindset is the bicep. You employ empowering mind frames more and more, and your mindset will gradually shift. So as an example, you're not enough. How do I change that frame? I'm going to try agreeing with it. My brain spits out, you're more than enough. Empowered mind frame. You're more than enough. You can quickly choose a different mind frame, and you could apply them across all the areas of your life, right? Your business, your relationships, and your relationship with yourself. And that is how we get the shift, the empowering shifts in mindset. And so over the coming weeks, I will teach more and more mind frames, the bicep curl to grow the bicep of your mindset. And to get the most out of that, you've got to trust the process, even when it feels annoying. And as a quick example of that, the incredible Michelle Dreilich, who attended my Diamond Day 2 event, and it's different. It's a lot of marketers, right? Because I do marketing. And I'm like, we're going to talk about mind frames and perspectives and mindset. And they're like, damn it, Laura, give me the tactic. Give me a copywriting tip, would ya? And so sometimes it takes a little time for them to open up and trust the process. And that's how Michelle was feeling until she was on an ATV with some lawyers who she had never met before, meeting them for the first time. And she discovers through ATVing with these lawyers that a company that she has been obsessed with for years, she had every single sales funnel screenshotted it in a Google Drive. She was obsessed with everything they did. She found out that one of those attorneys was that company's attorney, and they were listing it for sale. So she had the opportunity to buy that company. Now, whether she buys it or not, yes, important. But what about the learning and the evolution that occurs? She went from just admiring this company to now she might buy them. What a shift. Just by opening up and trusting the process. Another important factor, keep loops open. Resist the urge to quickly close them. We want to do that so fucking badly. We want to do that all the time. Okay, Laura said do this, so I got to do this. Or Laura said this, I don't agree with it. Your brain rapidly wants resolution, right? But instead, we keep things open. We sit with information before we decide to accept or reject it, even the things I say. Sit with it and catch yourself when you have those moments of, yeah, but that wouldn't work for me. Or, no, I've had this experience and it didn't work. All I ask is that you catch yourself. Your brain quickly does that. Can you guys do that? Awesome. Because I'm going to let you behind the curtain. I'm going to let you behind the curtain. We are supposed to have an enemy. I am supposed to present to you and say there is a they, and they are sinister, and it is all their fault. And maybe there are some shady doers or people who don't have our best interests or heart, right? Maybe there are naysayers. I mean, of course they're naysayers. But I'm supposed to sit here and tell you it is all their fault. They, the straw man. I've watched brilliant marketers and coaches in private rooms say, set up a straw man argument. They. Tell them it's they. But when you let them affect your desires, your identity, and your actions, you are the they. I'm sorry. I wish I could do it the easier way and say it is all their fault. But when you let them govern you, it is your choice, and you become the they. This is actually a good thing, right? Because it gives you complete power. It gives you the opportunity to find more clarity, more confidence, more ability, and get that understanding of what you want your legacy to be. So as we go through these future weeks, I'm going to ask you one more time, are you willing to accept that you are the they? Are you willing to keep loops open? Are you willing to catch yourself when your big, beautiful brain trying to protect you says, yeah, but that won't work for me. It's easy for other people. It's not easy for me. Hell Yes, I love to see that. And so I'm going to quickly run through house rules as it pertains to class. What we do here is a confidential space. Recordings get put in the vault, but if at any point we're having an open dialogue and you're vulnerable and you don't want something to be shared on a website, just let us know. And my editing team can always cut that out for you. We participate in dialogues. A lot of the times I lecture, but there's going to be more and more dialogue so that you guys can contribute, can get comfortable, used to contributing, sharing your perspective. We will never, ever, ever, this will be ongoing work, I know, but we're really going to work hard at not discrediting our contribution before we make it. We do this all the time. It's insidious. We often do it without realizing it. We'll think stuff like, they already know that, or who am I to say that? No more. You never know how your contribution will affect somebody else. And we have all already agreed to maintain openness about having our worldview examined and questioned. And I always invite you to participate fully and be attentive. And sometimes when we are in groups, right, and you might experience this at networking events, people want to sound smart, right? People want to feel smart and valuable. And so you might just sit and wait for somebody to finish talking so you could say something and feel really smart. I'm going to ask that you have some awareness on that proclivity and instead become a more active listener and ask questions and offer insights to help someone and not just so you feel smart. And part of that is understanding when you might not have something to say, which is totally okay. And the more and more you participate in this way, as if your life depends on it, the more you'll get out of it. The more impactful it will be to your sense of identity. And as mentioned, the behaviors will always line up with your identity. So if we make shifts in identity, we're playing big boys and big girls game. I won't have to tell you about behavior if we get the identity shift. Because at the end of the day, you're an ambassador to something no matter what. No matter what. So am I going to be an ambassador of you're not enough? You gave it all you had and you're not enough? Look, they confirmed it. You're not enough? Or am I going to be an ambassador to it's normal to go after what you want? No matter what. It's commonplace. And so that ongoing openness is what will always, not just in mindset mastery class, it's what will always get you the biggest return on your time. Just take a moment to imagine yourself 60 days from now, 30 days from now. You've worked the conveyor belt when you faced a big challenge, when you've had a big hit of negative self-talk. You shifted your perspective towards the horizon. You're thinking longer term. You have more poise. You think winners only think about winning, and winning is a choice. That is who I am. What am I going to do now? And you're feeling so much more productive, so much more clear, so much more confident because you've chosen to embark on this work. It'll feel pretty damn good, right? And that's class. That is class today. So you got my notes in there. I didn't need them. I knew what I was going to say. I love each and every one of you so much. Every single word about saying you're cut from a different cloth. Like, yeah. Is it meant to amp you up a little bit? Sure. but it's also authentically true. It's both. So thank you so much for being here and being a part of my mission. I appreciate you immensely. You'll see updates in the Facebook group, and onward, and of course, upward. Love you guys. I'll see you next week.